systems to strengthen human capital for 21st century. Due to unforeseen weather and connectivity challenges, today's original scheduled section had to be changed. However, we are truly grateful to have an insightful and timely section on the theme environmental conservation from myth to science. It's our privilege to extend a warm felt welcome to our esteemed guest speaker, Dr. Madhan Shankar, Director of Rashmivat Edutech Consultancy, Coimbatore, who graciously stepped in to lead today's section. Dr. Madhan Shankar brought valuable perspective on how environmental awareness and sustainability are deeply rooted in our traditional knowledge system, now reinforced by modern science. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you, madam. Can you give me 1 minute? I'll share the slide.
Yes, sir.
Is the slide visible?
Yes, visible, sir.
Sir, can you see the slides?
Yes, sir.
It's visible, no?
Yes, sir. Visible, sir.
Okay. Or shall I do one thing? Shall I share it to you? Shall I send the slides to you
Yes, sir.
so that you can go ahead?
Okay, sir.
I'm sending it right now.
Yes, sir.
Sir, I've sent it to you. WhatsApp lab. Can we start, sir? Yeah. So good evening to all of you. Sir, am I audible? Sir, is it audible? You can make it full screen. Sir, sir, the slides are not visible.
Sir, please start it, sir.
Yeah, make it as full screen. Good evening to everybody. Today we'll see for the past 12 days or so, you have heard about different aspects of the Indian traditional knowledge system in which can be incorporated in forms. So what I'll be presenting today is about environmental conservation, a heritage of our Bharatavarsha as depicted in Vedas, Upanishads and epics. So this will give you a small idea as to how you can incorporate these components into your environmental science curriculum. Because most of us will be having environmental science in our scheme. So you can introduce them into the curriculum and give them an notion of how these conservation methodologies since time immemorial. Can you go to the next slide? So what we talk about as Indian traditional knowledge system. So next slide. So one side you have traditional knowledge, the other side you have scientific validation. So do we have a blend, or are we having a blend of these two is something which we need. Sir, slides are not moving. Next slide. Suresh sir, you can go to the next slide.
சார் நீங்க அப்படியே கண்டினியூ பண்ணிட்டு சார் நான் பிடிஎஃப் மாத்திட்டு கொடுக்குறேன். நீங்க அப்படியே கண்டினியூ பண்ணுங்க சார்.
Okay, nice. Okay, so on one side you have opinions, customs, traditions, beliefs. All these are put into a class called as ancestral knowledge, or what we called as the traditional knowledge. Now there is something in between them. The other side of this is the scientific validation of facts and figures which are meant traditional knowledge system, the so-called beliefs or so-called traditions or whatever we name it. So do we have any scientific validation for that? For example, today you had some 3-4 days ago you heard about how Ayurveda can be used as a personalized medicine. So today, Ayurvedic systems or Ayurvedic practitioners are doing some research and development to test and validate what has been prescribed as a tradition, or what has been prescribed as a belief, or what has been prescribed as a methodology. So this is the scientific validation of fact. You have something called as a reality, and this reality is nothing but an authoritative and verified knowledge. So how, as teachers, are we going to blend this component of what is called as tradition or belief or customs or whatever you call, and the verification done or validation done by scientific experimentation, and show that this is reality and this will work out as a reality? So unless we have amalgamation, unless we have of verifying these concepts or verifying this knowledge by a structured scientific methodology or experimentation, we will always be in a reality, or whether this can be taken into consideration, so on and so forth. There are a lot of misunderstandings, misconceptions which happen when we start talking about traditional knowledge. For example, even in Ayurvedic practices, one thing which we need to really understand is Ayurvedic practices are more preventive in nature. They are not highly curative in nature, but they are more for certain diseases which are at the tertiary level or at more advanced stage. Ayurvedic practices may not be an answer to it. So we need to have a balance between these two. This is one thing which we need to understand when we talk about traditional knowledge. The second thing which we need to understand about traditional knowledge is the first aspect of every traditional knowledge, or the whole practice of traditional knowledge, is resting upon harmony. So, or the Vedic Aryans, they were more towards nature blended life. So the underlying fact, or the basic principle, or the basic platform on which most of the traditional knowledge systems are built is a nature blended life form, or a nature blended living. So how accommodative we were in the ancient past, and how are we now? There is a clear distinction between what is happening to our environment at the moment and how our environment were there at the past. So the basic platform is harmonized living. Next comes the education. So here, education means not just imparting factual knowledge, or not just giving them facts and figures and making their brain crowded with facts. The only aspect of education was to understand the reality, or to understand the ultimate wisdom. So this was not to just to give facts and figures and make them ready for a job. But education in the earlier days had a different purpose, meaningful life or living a purposeful life. So education was built on the first platform of nature blended living, how accommodatively a person can live a very truthful life without creating disturbances. And the second platform, having said this, education is a platform. Education was imparted not just to understand God, not just to understand there is something supernatural, there is something above us. It was to understand that there is one source, that is the creator, and the same. So you need to respect both the creator as well as every creation that the creator has created. So the concept of Brahman, or the concept of universal oneness, is something which education has been imparted through Vedas. You have heard about all those things in the last few days, about Vedas, Vedangas, Upanishads, Itihasas, and Puranas. All these ultimately talk about only one thing: the oneness between the creator and the creation. So that is the second basic platform on which the system of practices. Third one is the folklores, arts and crafts, which were all very scientific, which had a lot of meaningful insights into them, which were built on strong scientific foundations. For example, when you take about the Vedic mathematics, or when you take about the signs of several rituals that we followed. Now we call them as beliefs and rituals. So all these had certain important scientific principles. The only thing was that these principles were not thoroughly documented. Of course, they were documented here and there, but it was not thoroughly documented. Thing that happened was most of these scientific beliefs, principles were all tied to a devata called as God. So as you understand, the whole concept of Hinduism does not speak about God at all. There is nothing called God. God was a entity which was created by the Western world. So here there was nothing called God. So this devatas and upadevatas were all created and tied up to a ritual and belief, because man as a individual being require an object to concentrate. So this as an object, and every practices that was happening in the world circulated or revolved around this concept called God. So this culminated into what were called as traditional practices. So to give a holistic perspective, traditional practices were completely harmonized and nature blended living systems, or it was a dharmic practice. So that is why Sanatana Dharma is not a religion. It is a way of life. It is a method to give a nature blended life and a purposeful life and a meaningful life. Next slide, please. So what I'll be talking in the next few slides is about how we have different systems which are available in different Vedas, how certain things were all exemplified in Vedas. For example, when you see the Atharva Veda, it considers trees as abodes of various gods and goddesses. For example, if you take neem tree, the neem tree is always associated with the goddess. Similarly, when you take the people tree, or whether you take the Agel Marmelos, that is the Vilivam, all these trees are found in certain temples and they are attributed to certain gods and goddesses. The basic principle why these trees are considered as abode of gods and goddesses is to preserve them. So this is a kind of a very ancient germplasm preservation methodology which our ancient Aryans were advocating. Similarly, when you take Rig Veda, several poems which are talks about methods of controlling nature, how you can increase the fertility of the soil, how you can improve human life through a nature blended living is seen in Rig Veda. Similarly, in Narasimha Purana and Yajurveda also, it talks more about mutual relationship between man and other life forms. Here it is mentioned man with animals and other plants also. So it is not just man-animal conflict, but today, when you see the world which is existing today, the most important problem is man, and particularly in this region, elephant-man conflict is something which has no answers to, because of invasion of man into the areas which are called as elephant corridors and so on and so forth. So, but when you look into the Vedic poems, or when you look into the Vedic prescriptions, every Vedic prescription talks about a harmonized living with the nature. Similarly, when you say Vishnu Samhita, talks more about biodiversity conservation. Several points, I've not mentioned the couplets or the poems from that, but just to give, it talks more about biodiversity conservation. Similarly, the Surapala's Vriksha Ayurveda, it talks Vriksha Ayurveda, which means Ayurveda of the trees. It talks about how you have to plant a tree, how you have to maintain a tree, or what are all the methods for sustainable practice of treatment of sick trees. For example, today we have a lot of chemical pesticides. Today we have a lot of chemical herbicides and weedicides. But in those days, it was not there. People used all natural materials, and the Panchakavya is some to be very important one in preparation of the soil for sowing, and also as a fertilizer, also as a component which can increase the soil fertility. Similarly, the Bhumi Sukta, the Bhumi itself means Bhumi Sukta, talks more about the earth. It talks about the praise, it praises about the earth and invokes a balance. So here it talks about how you have to maintain or how you have to conserve the Mother Earth. And even today, in ritual is being conducted. It's done in the month of March. It's called Adiratram. And Adiratram, the specific thing of this ritual is that it's a 12-day long ritual, which is done as a yajna. And 9 or 10 days, it is prepared. And it was actually documented by a US Indologist called Fritz. And he was the person who brought it out. And now for the past 35 years, it has been happening. And this person, a US-based Indologist, in one of the Adiratram function, and he says that this function or this ritual is just for man-environmental balance and to create universal peace. So our whole thing revolves on a concept called Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. So this festival called Adiratram, the most important thing is that on the 9th day or the 7th day of the yajna, they use the juice from a plant called Somalata, and this offered into the yajna. And the idea why all these herbs are added into the yajna is to create a kind of concentration for the person who does the yajna on the 12th day. And after the 12th day of the yajna, the entire thing is offered as an oblation to the goddess of fire, and then the ash is being distributed as the prasadam. So this festival is even today. So this is one of the how there was a man environmental balance or a man harmonized living which was existing in this world. Next slide, please. So having said this, when you look into the other concepts of Hinduism, I told about Loka Samista Sukhino Bhavantu, and also about the well-being of every form of this life. Next slide, sir. Next slide. Please go to the next slide. So when you look into the different, I'll give you some examples period where several Upanishads have given examples of how to conserve or how to preserve environment in a better way. Today, the Sustainable Development Goals talks more about environmental conservation, talks about climate change, climate resilience, and so on and so forth. But all this were available to us in our Vedas time immemorial. For example, the Taittiriya Upanishad, it says that one should water, that is running waters, rivers. It says rivers, lakes, or ponds should not be contaminated with human waste material, that is human fecal or human urine. And he says it, and the Upanishad says it is a sin when you do this. Similarly, the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad equates trees with human beings, and he also says, just like a tree, the prince of the forest, so the man in truth. So see, when you see this, it compares man to a tree. So it also exists in every form in life, every form of life, that is in the form of air, in water, fire, trees, herbs, animals, etc. So it means to say, it talks about the oneness, it talks about the universal one consciousness. Similarly, the Isha Upanishad also reveals several secrets about existence of life and the importance of every organism for survival. So this Upanishad says that no human being, whether in any form, has the right to create an irreversible damage to any other living form on this nature. It says no creation is superior to any other form, which means that all creations which are created by the creator are one and the same, and they're all equal. The same logic applies to a man, will also apply to an animal, will also apply to a plant. But how you can use these resources in a very productive, in which we have to learn from these Upanishads. For example, when you go to the tribal community, when you go to the several tribal communities in and around, they have very, very important religious practices. They have very important environmental conservation practices. For example, one such tribal community which is there in the Nilgiris, they have a concept of wearing an earring with seeds studded onto the earrings. So this is again a method of germplasm conservation, and these earrings are passed on from one generation to another generation. This, even if you lose, or even if some seeds are lost, or when there is a biodiversity loss, the seeds which are carried from one person to another person can be used for sowing and propagate the seeds. Several such practices are available in the tribal villages, and the folklores also talk about several such practices. So that is why Upanishads insist a nature blended life, and Upanishad says that no creation is superior to another. Next one, sir. Next one, please. Going down, we will have a few more examples of different forms of environmental conservation which are seen in the Puranas. So when you look into Narasimha Purana, it says killing birds for eating was prohibited. But today you see what exactly has happened. Hunting is a fun for several people. They go hunt birds, and particularly endangered species are hunted, and the number of these birds populations are coming down drastically. Purana says God will be pleased with a person who will not harm or destroy any other creatures or animals. Similarly, the Matsya Purana, it says about the Vana Mahotsav. Today we have in every village and every forest department, Vana Mahotsav is being celebrated. Vana Mahotsav is nothing but planting trees or tree planting ceremony. But this is more than 1500 years old in our country, where it is documented in Matsya Purana. Similarly, when you go to the slides, I will also talk about sacred groves. I'll also talk about what are called as kavugal, or what you say in Tamil, it is called as kovil kadugal, which means forests which are created around a temple. So these are also some of the examples of conservation practices which were followed in the past. The Padma Purana now says inhabitants of a house which has sacred basil are fortunate. That is why this tulasi or sacred basil is kept at the front. There are two reasons for this. One is its sanctity. The other one, this releases a lot of oxygen. So this is very, very essential when you have a household and you need rich oxygen. So this releases a lot of rich oxygen. That is why this tulasi or sacred basil is planted in front of every house. Similarly, when you say the Skanda Purana also says where there is a basil plant, Lord Yama will be hesitant to enter that house. And any human being in his life who plants one peepal tree, one neem tree, one banyan, 2 pomegranates, 2 orange, 5 mango trees, and 10 flowering plants or creepers will never go to hell. For example, when you go to Kerala, every household will have at least a majority of these trees which have been mentioned here. But today, we have now moved away from indigenous plant species, and we have now brought exotic plant species, and we, for example, in the place of planting these pomegranates and so on and so forth, we are planting trees which are brought from the western soil. And neem, as I told you, even before I told you, is one of the wonder tree. It is it is being cut in the process of widening the roads, in the process of development, and so on and so forth. Peepal tree has got another very important one, and that is why it is very, very sacred. It's called Ficus religiosa. It is very sacred because it liberates a lot of oxygen even during the night time. Planting these trees will really make a person very happy. It will also make the environment very happy and sustainable. Similarly, when you say Agni Purana says plantation of trees and creation of gardens will lead to eradication of sins. For example, when you look into the Ramayana, the Dandakaranya Vanam or several such forests were all not existing ones. They were all actually created. So there are, and a rishi would have created those forests and they would have been dwelling there. So many of such forests which are in our country were all created for some purpose. So this is again in Padma Purana, it says cutting a green tree is an offense punishable in hell. So today, even when you go and see these tribal hamlets, they will not cut a tree. They will cut a tree only by asking permission to the tree. They will do some pujas, and after this are performed, they will cut the tree, and after cutting the tree, they will very religiously plant 10 or 15 such trees in the vicinity. So this has been a practice, and only some tribal people or only some tribal community is still following this practice of restoration. So it's a kind of, if you take some resources from the nature, you replace it back elsewhere or replace it back at the same point, so that the next generation who comes after you will also be able of that particular flora or fauna or whatever be it. Next slide, please. So Puranas have also spoken a lot about conservation of trees. But what has happened today is, under the pretext of development and under the pretext of industrial revolutions and industrial developments, we have polluted the entire atmosphere, we have polluted the entire universe, we have polluted the entire Mother Earth, and pollution is seen in all forms, whether it is a developed nation or developing nation. Today's one of the most burning issues is pollution and how to control pollution. Several conferences, several seminars are done which talks about solutions, which talks about so many methods to abate pollution, but still there are no answers to it. Water bodies are highly polluted. All our rivers, which are considered to be sacred in our Upanishads and Puranas, are highly polluted. But thanks to several projects like Namami Gange, the Ganga River has already been cleansed because of this project. So similarly, many such projects have to come to clean our rivers. But then what is more important is the integrity within everybody. See, there are a few months ago, we read an article that in Erode, which is where the river Kaveri flows, the waste from the slaughterhouses are dumped directly into the river. So this shows how much of integrity human beings have in preserving the water bodies and also in giving this water body in a clean form to the next generation. So as a result of this environmental degradation, there is an extensive deforestation, siltation, air is completely polluted, land is polluted, and the most important, an unseen and unsensible threat to the whole world is the nuclear pollution. We do not know what happens in the nuclear pollution, but very most costly form of pollution which we have done to the nature today. And with the advent of several modern technologies and modern so-called gadgets and things, humans have completely got isolated from the environment, and then they have become more self-centric. And I would also say that several resorts and several things which are constructed are all selfish practices which humans have practiced, and where you are infringing, getting into the into the areas of animals which are by infringing or by intruding into their areas, you're also destroying the habitat of those areas. You're also destroying the flora and fauna of these areas. So what is happening today is, because of loss of environment, because of loss of such rich biodiversity, there is a complete compromise on health, complete compromise healthy living. And what was seen in the earlier past, people did not have, say 50-60 years ago, the concept of diabetes was not very prominent, but today diabetes is a very common issue everywhere. So that is because of the lifestyle, because of the food that we eat, because of the type of air that we are exposed to, right from morning You start your day with a chemical, you end your day with a sleeping pill. This is what is today's lifestyle. And because of this, cancer is also now becoming very common. Like how diabetes was once, a whole family will cry when there is a diabetic case in their house. But today diabetes is very common. Similarly, cancer is also becoming quite common. 10 years or 15 years, because there was an article in Bombay's newspaper which talks about an increase in the colorectal cancer. So this colorectal cancer increase is mainly because of change of lifestyle, change of food habits, change of pattern of how you eat the food or what kind of. They added to that, the Swiggy and Zomato is now adding fuel to already, adding fuel to the fire which is already burning. So today's environmental issues and health issues are now blending, going hand in hand. In the earlier day, there were no environmental issues, there were no health issues because health, environment, and living were blended. But today, environment is separated, living lifestyle is separated, and as a result, your health has also come out as a separate entity. So unless we have answers to bring down the environmental issues, we will always be having an increase of alarming health issues in the forthcoming years as well. Next slide, sir. Okay, so what is the cause? As I told you in the few one or two slides before, I told you this question of sustainability and sustenance is now being talked at large. With Sustainable Development Goals talks about sustainability. So next slide, go to the next slide. So it talks about sustainability, and this concept of sustenance and sustainability itself was not a new concept to our country. It was not very new. It was not brought as a new concept. Just like in the previous lectures, you would have heard about entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship was also not a new concept to Bharatavarsha. It was existing in time immemorial. Similarly, sustainability also was not a new concept. That's what I said. You cut one tree, they plant 10 trees and give it back. Waters were not polluted. Waters were not, misused. But today, all the forms of resources which you find in nature are either overused, or they are misused, or they are completely depleted. So the reason is, the difference is the lack of clarity or the lack of imbalance between, and you don't need to understand what is the difference between need or greed. Whether you require having, say, cutting one log for making a small house is need, but clearing a whole forest for building a multi-storied apartment or building a multi-storied unit is actually greed. So are we having a balance between this need and greed? Few weeks ago, you might have heard about this Hyderabad forest clearing issue. So there was a lot of forest area which was cleared for building an IT park. Is it required? So scientific verification to that, we do not know. So there is no balance between your requirement and what you actually need to live a sustainable life. This is not there. But in the earlier forms, biodiversity was actually used in a very thorough way, was used in a very mutualistic approach, which means mutualism itself means you take something from me, use it, and give it back so that it remains sustainable for several generations to come. The concept of coexistence. But today, these concepts of coexistence, sustainability, mutualism, and biodiversity conservation to the Gen Z, and particularly to this Gen Alpha who are coming now, are a big question. People do not know what is to be used properly and how is to be used properly. Again, wastage of food, wastage of water, wastage of so many things are all on the rise now in the current scenario. So this is the whole cause of how environment is getting deteriorated every day in and day out. Cause for all this deterioration, I mean, the major, yesterday we saw about the cause and effect. So the cause and effect phenomena, the effect is deteriorating health. So that is the answer which nature will give back. And several calamities which happen in nature, for example, landslides, all these are because of unprecedented use of resources and unwarranted use of our natural resources. Next one. Indian culture. So this Indian culture is complete. As I told you before, it talks about nature and God. It talks about biodiversity, sustenance, and now there's a disconnect between the Vedas and the modern science. These two have become separate entities or distinctive entities. But in the earlier days, Vedas prescribed method of living. For example, Manusmriti. In Manusmriti, nature blended life is, and anybody who goes against this natural blended life, certain punishments are also are advocated in Manusmriti. So, but today, modern science has completely disconnected us from the what is prescribed in the Vedas and how a man has to live an integral or balanced life. Next slide, please. So go to the next one. Okay. Having said all this, when you look into how the Vedic Aryans were in the ancient past, they were admirers of the entire events that happen in the universe, whether it is a lightning or whether it is thunder or whether it is rain, or whether it is a sunshine or winter or whatever. Every aspect of this were very much respected, were revered, and blessings from the nature. And all these components had an entity of God or entity of Devatas in them. Say this Indra, Varuna, Surya, Soma, everything. They are all Devatas, and every aspect of these Devatas were respected, and they were, I mean, they were actually, they were, I mean, seen as a divinity, very much divine. And the inscriptions to that are seen in, for example, the cave paintings in central India. It depicts a lot of birds, animals, human beings living in very harmonious nature. Similarly, even in Nilgiris, the paintings which you see in the Kurumba tribe, that also depicts a harmonious life form of the ancient Aryans. So Vedas, what is prescribed in the Vedas, we have real proof to that when you go into these cave paintings or when you look into the different aspects of inscriptions which are seen in our. Yes, sir, I think Mr. Chandramohan is raising your hands. Yeah.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, please.
So, sorry for interruption, sir. What you are showing the Bhimbetka paintings, sir. These are first ever actually prehistoric cave paintings of India, sir. See, our Indians has a prehistoric, sir. They are, and starting from Paleolithic age, and it is continued up to the startings of Neolithic age, sir. In those days itself, sir, they have went for painting of flora and fauna, sir. And these type of the cave paintings are very much helpful for climatology department, sir, because you can see some animals which are actually painted on those walls of those caves, sir. Today they are not surviving. Today, sir, today they are not surviving, sir. Today, that means by studying this climatology department will estimate how the climate changes of one area like that, sir. If I say just one small 1 minute, sir, and in Kurnool district, actually you have one caves called Belum Caves, sir. There actually rhinoceros fossils are found, sir. But today rhinoceros is nowhere found in South India. It is pertaining to only Assam and this mud forest only, sir. That's what the beauty, sir. Thank you, sir. Sorry for the interruption. That's what you are saying, sir. Thank you.
No, yes, thank you. Thank you for the supplement that you have added. And other important aspect of these cave paintings are most of these paintings are still existing in the same flavor and same color. So that
Natural
shows
colors,
that we have natural paints which are available in nature. We need not go for this no.
Yes, sir.
Paints. Adding again, see, paints also create a lot of diseases. For example, respiratory diseases, cancers are all mainly because of certain additives which are there in the paints as well. But when you look into these paints, they are still surviving about 3,000, 5,000 years. So they are still fresh. So this shows that Indians knew every aspect of whether it is painting or whether it is metallurgy or whether it is alchemy or whether it is physics, everything. And it was all documented in the Vedas, and that's the most interesting aspect. Next slide. Again, when you look into books like Meghaduta of Kalidasa, it talks a lot about floral diversity. It talks, next slide. It talks more about how different animals can coexist, how they can coexist with with the nature and so on and so forth. Guru Granth Sahib states, air is the guru, water is the father, and earth is the great mother of all. So here, the right, it's again a comic. I mean, a comic that was done in several channels. This also talks about how a human child is able to live in a very blended harmony with different animals. So that's what I'd say. Right from Rig Veda to Ruskin Bond, every aspect of sustainability has been spoken. Every aspect of sustainability has been documented. But what has happened now is crept into the minds of everybody, and we have lost these traditional knowledge, or we have somehow forgotten to understand, forgotten to comprehend or decipher this knowledge. Next one, please. Next slide, sir. Okay, so what is the cause of all this is the balance between ego and eco. Are we egoistic? Ecologically sensitive? How much of ecological sensitivity do we have is something which we need to assess. So in few other slides which are coming down, I will give you some examples of traditional Indian lifestyle practices. And I will tell you about how the forest cover has, see, with the current policies of the government, we say that the forest cover has increased to about 27%. This data is a bit old data. Today's statistics says it has gone up to 27% or 28% forest cover. And this 20 forest cover is more than enough to neutralize 12% of the GHG emission, that is greenhouse gas emissions. And I will also talk about sacred groves, a specific community called the Bishnoi community, and traditional rainwater harvesting systems, and the Kejri tree conservation issue. These are some of the case studies which I'll speak about in the few slides from now. Next slide, sir. Okay, so most of us would have heard about these things called sacred groves. Sacred groves are forest, temple forest in a very simple term. In Tamil, they are called as Kovil Kadugal. In Kerala, they call it as Kavu. And there are several kavus that are in Kerala. Sarpa Kavu is one very common one which you see in several aspects in Kerala. In Tamil Nadu, in the districts of Kanyakumari, you have this Ayyappan Kavu or Swami Topu or Swami Sholai. All these things are sacred groves. And in few years ago, in India alone, there were about 13,200 sacred groves which were documented. But then today they have started decreasing in number. Intervention by man in the name of development. For example, in the name of mining, a few sacred groves were lost from Rajasthan. Similarly, in different areas, even in the name of development, in the name of widening the roads, etc., several sacred groves have started getting reduced in number and also in their size as well. And these sacred groves are the repositories of floral and faunal diversity, and they have remain untouched for several generations to come. The plant species, the animal species which dwell there are untouched. Again, in the name of religious practices, they have been conserved. In different regions of our state, sacred groves have been given different names. For example, it's called Devre in Maharashtra. In Rajasthan, it's called Yogamaya. Again, in Karnataka, it's called Siddharvanam. In Tamil Nadu, you call it as Sami Kadugal or Swami Topu, Sharanya in Bihar, Sharan in Chhattisgarh, so on and so forth. Such tribal grooves or sacred grooves are still in existence in several places, and they are being protected by a group of community, by either they are tribal or whatever. They protect them. And sacred grooves, as you see, were a concept which was inbuilt and completely impregnated in our culture. So sacred grooves were a part and parcel of our lifestyle. Next slide, please. So, sir, next slide. So, again, one more very important thing as I tell you about is today we have Nakshatravana and Stalavriksham. When you look into Stalavriksham, when you see Vilvam is attributed to Lord Shiva. Similarly, when you see a banyan tree, beneath this there will be an idol of Vinayaka. So neem tree were attributed to the goddess. So likewise, several trees goddesses mainly for protecting them or for preserving them, because of two reasons. Either they are having a slow rate of development, slow rate of germination, or either they have a prolonged what you called as dormancy. So it is just to maintain them and preserve them. These sacred groves were created. And sacred groves, as you say, unlike a botanical garden where you will have a wide variety of seeds planted in botanical gardens, sacred groves were also considered mainly for sustaining life and for mainly to give an agroecological balance. It has a lot of ecological significance where it will serve as a refuge for several vulnerable species to live and thrive. And it is also a place where these flora and fauna survive without getting extincted. So that is one of the most important role of sacred groves, and as a site for several keystone species, whether it is birds or whether it is plants or whether it is several other fauna. Several keystone species are dwelling there, and since they are not touched by human being for any form, they are protected for several generations to come. There are a lot of scientific research which are going on today to compare the genetic identity of plants which are there in the sacred grove and plants which are outside. A small study which was done in a place which were once an earlier sacred grove and now converted into a urban area, they found out that the genetic diversity of the plants which are present in the sacred grove is now showing a lot of relationship to several plants and tree species located elsewhere, totally cut off from the sacred groves. So this indicates that huge traces of lands were under the sacred grove, but because of urbanization and because of development, they have now got disconnected from the main area. Next one, sir, please. Next slide, please. We will also now talk about this Bishnoi community. You must have heard about this Bishnoi community versus the Salman Khan case, which is a very important one. So these black bugs are the community called Chinkaras. They consider this black bug very, very, very religious and sacred to them, and they protect them. And you must also know that this case between Salman Khan and Bishnoi community, when it comes to protecting nature, they say it is our religion which is protecting the nature. But it was not so. It was these community had a responsibility towards environmental protection, and they fought for protecting these black bugs from being slaughtered. And this is one classical example. The community stands to protect a particular flora or a particular fauna. Next slide, please. In the next slide, I will also talk about a few sacred groves like the Tunganath sacred grove, which is present in a very high altitude. The Tunganath sacred grove is a sacred grove which is spanning several miles, and this Tunganath is being protected by the community in that particular region. And there is also one more sacred grove. Sir, next slide. And this, the Kejri tree is again one example where the whole community stood against cutting this tree. Only, I mean, they actually wanted to build a temple over there. But this whole community stood against this process and they prevented from building the temple. And even now, the temple is seen very adjacent to the tree. The tree is not damaged. Similarly, when you look into traditional rainwater harvesting systems, we had step wells of Gujarat, the Kulangal or Uranis, which you see in Tamil Nadu, the Johats of Rajasthan, and the Zabo system of Nagaland. So all these were very traditional scientific practices of water conservation in the form of harvest, conserving water for the for a larger period of time. Next one. So next. Okay, so this again talks about water conservation. It says a pond. So go to the previous one. Sir, previous slide. So it says a pond equals 10 wells. Sir, that slide, I just want to explain that. Yeah, so it says one pond is equal to 10 wells and a reservoir equals 10 ponds. A sun equals 10 reservoirs and a tree equals 10 suns. This is from Matsya Purana, which says we have been very religious, how we have been very conservative in nature. And when you see each of these forms, whether it is rainwater or natural spring, wells and canals, lakes and rivers, all these were documented. All these had a name in the Vedic scriptures, and all these were protected without being polluted and without being damaged in any form. Next slide, sir. Sir, yeah.
Sir.
So you have something to speak?
Yes, sir. So just 1 minute, sir. This is what you said from Matsya Purana, sir. It was well exposed in Mahabharata. Mahabharata, sir. And after Mahabharata, actually, once this Ramayana and Mahabharata epics got very great popularity in early medieval times in South India, sir. Namely, Cholas, Pandyas, Kakatiyas of Telugu state, and Vijayanagar Rayas of South India. They have taken digging so many tanks, sir. That's a beauty, of course. That's why how they have preserved what I say water. And today we are many villages of South India are enjoying water means. That's what the great deeds of those people, and it is called as one among Sapta Santanas, actually, according to Mahabharata, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for the reference of wonderful thing.
Thank you. So coming to our aspects of food, food was also very sattvic food that we used to have. So Anna was called as Brahma or Anna Brahma. Respecting food without wasting was our practice. And we used to have locally grown and seasonal foods in all our preparations. But today we have moved away completely from that. Convenience, conventional food to convenience foods. And the vessels that were used to cook were all energy saving ones. And today we have all energy utilizing vessels and utilizing utensils which are used for cooking. And this process itself of making the food was with very low GHG emissions, that's greenhouse gas emissions. But today, food preparation itself emits a lot of greenhouse gases. So when you have listened to the second lecture by Dr. Pratima would have talked
yes.
features about how food itself was very religious, how food itself were very conservative in nature, and we did not have very laborious foods. Today, when you go to any parties or see, you can see 100 different items being served, and 90% of them are being thrown into the dustbin. So we didn't have such practices in our ancient culture and ancient tradition. Food was respected, and today I would say that food is not respected because we don't respect farmers. We don't being thrown away, food is being wasted. So the concept of Anna Brahma itself becomes a big question. Next slide, sir.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes,
because
sir.
of that,
Yes.
so because of all this aspect, we have lost all the sustainable development conception. Well, see, several aspects which I have mentioned here. Use of cotton towels and handkerchief. Today, everywhere
Yes,
you
sir.
go, you ask for a tissue paper, and there's in every hotel you can see a drum of tissue paper getting piled up every day. It's a phenomenal way.
Yes, sir.
Strategies were all present in our earlier days. Similarly, use of earthen pots or matkas, we have completely gone out of that, but somehow it's coming back today. Sun drying of clothes and hand washing of dishes is completely gone today. We have dishwashers, and dishwashers use more number of chemicals than the normal method of washing dishes. Again, 99% of the grey water that comes from every household contain toxic detergents in a higher form.
Yes. Yes, sir.
But the earlier days, people used to wash the utensils, clothes, everything in a running river water. But the river water was not polluted. But today, river water gets polluted because of use of soaps and detergents, which are completely loaded with chemicals. Earlier days, shampoos, people used to use hibiscus leaves, people use soap nuts, etc. But
Yes, sir.
today, we use paraben loaded shampoos. Use those shampoos in waterfalls or rivers, the river is certainly going to get polluted.
Yes.
This is where we have moved completely away from a nature blended life, polluting every other form of life, every other form of natural resource that we have. Similarly, tradition of, see, today one bigger thing is tradition of passing the clothes and book to younger siblings is completely lost. Like even I do understand that some of the shirts that I wear were worn by my brother. Books,
Yes,
again,
sir. True.
I should.
Yes, sir.
The CBSE schools, they advocate buying books every year. Even people who cannot afford should buy the books from them. But in the earlier days, books that were used by me were used by somebody else for the next year. But today that practice is completely gone. So what are we trying to do? We are trying to create more and more material usage, and we are trying to, for every book or every paper that is being used, millions of trees are cut.
Yes.
So somewhere this disconnect is being increased. But rather we are increasing the disconnect, going more towards egocentric lifestyle than eco-conscious or ecocentric lifestyle. So that is one other thing. The other aspect of buildings, all our buildings are now become, what to say, they're completely in glass cases, and this glass is going to actually increase the temperature. And
Yes, yes.
today's global warming is because of increase in the glass cover that is seen in tops, rooftops, and buildings that you build everywhere. They call it as green building.
No, it is not.
And say it's green building, but this building is going to emanate a lot of radiations. I should say most of this. See, take the common case of Bengaluru. All these buildings that you see,
Yes.
right from Electronic City to the end, are all glass covered buildings, and that's why the temperature is gone. Today, Bengaluru, you cannot call it as a garden city. The
Yes,
complete the weather and the beauty of Bengaluru is lost because of this. Similarly, several cities are losing its charm because of building, because of practices. So this shows that we are moving more and more from eco-conscious to egocentric. But everywhere the buildings, it is a green building. I don't know where the concept of green comes. Taking into consideration only having a solar power plant. They will have only one solar power plant and say it's a green building. Surrounding the whole building, it will be a glass case. And this glass case is going to emanate a lot of radiation. The temperature is going to rise by 1 or 2 degrees there. In this a major cause of global warming. This is a major cause of how summer temperatures are going higher than the prescribed normal. Next one. Next slide, sir. So some of these examples of use of this Brahma Kamal, this the story of Haryali Devi and Tunganath Shrine is one classical example of how the so-called taboos or belief that we say is being used to conserve a complete forest. The story of Haryali Devi, it is there, it's practiced even today. For nearly 5 years, nobody is allowed to collect even a twig from the forest. The local community protects that area, and they will not allow anybody to collect any twig from the forest. And for 5 years, the forest is let to regenerate itself. It's happening even today. Similarly, the Tunganath Shrine, which is at a very high altitude at the Uttarakhand region, is a host of sacred groves, particularly the Brahma Kamal and all these plants are protected by the local community. So what is protecting them is not a law, is not a punishment that is being given, but the taboos and beliefs which were in existence for several generations together are protecting this sacred grove. So the entire concept of sacred grove itself was brought into picture, was brought into reality to preserve a flora and a region, and for sustainable development and for sustainable pass of this flora and fauna to the next generation. Next one, please. Next slide. And as I told you, in Ramayana also, you can see several examples of eco-restoration. For example, the three living concept, the three kingdoms. Sir, go to the previous one. The three kingdom concept that you see in Ramayana is a classical example of how there was a very scientific. The three, sir, go to the previous one, sir, please. The Ramayana slide. Yeah. So here, the Ayodhya was a rural and urban land. Kishkinda was completely a forest dwelling, and it was a more of a prakritic living than a vikritic living. But today, it is the reverse. Forest ashrams and gurukulas, as I told you before, the Dandakaranya one, for example, the ashram of Agastya,
Rishi.
the Mandakini, who created the Panchasapsar lake, and how the lifestyle, the forest dwelling lifestyle of Rama and Sita, the eco-friendly lifestyle, is a classical example of nature blended living. Similarly, the Rishi Matang, he created the Matangavan for meditation and also for education. So these were all man-made forests. So the so-called silvicultural operations, or what you called as the what is the thing that you do today, the common method of creating a forest. I suddenly forgot the name of that. So all these were in existence in our Bharatavarsha. The Grama Swarajya or Ramarajya itself is a classical example of sustainable development. In Ramayana itself, you see there were about 125 species of trees were named. Names of 30 mammals are present, 15 birds and several marine species. Regeneration time of bamboo to about 60 to 70 years. Not that alone, scientific validations were also there. For example, the importance of Ashokavanam and importance of that volatile air of Ashokavanam tied to wellness, of uterine wellness, is also documented in Ramayana. And similarly, this the grama called Prakriti Rajya, that is Nandi Grama, from where Bharata ruled, is again another example of how he ruled a whole nation sitting in a
Village.
Prakritic lifestyle. So this itself shows that our lifestyle and our living were all tied to nature, were all tied to a very eco-conscious living. Next one. Similarly, you can see several such snippets in Mahabharata also. In Mahabharata, when Bhishma is there in the deathbed, he gives lot of snippets and lot of ideas into how you have to live a beneficial life and a purposeful life. So go to the next slide.
Yes, Shanti Parva.
Yeah. In Shanti Parva, Vedavyasa highlights the importance of seasons. He is linking it to the cosmic force, and he says how these cosmic forces blend everybody, including flora, fauna, human being, and everybody. And he also talks about several punishments for cutting trees and things like that. Bhishma, as I told you, yoga as a method of living, and richness of flora and fauna is also given there. Gita talks about the materialism and consumerism, that is the sattvic behavior, how the sattvic behavior will help a person to attain moksha is also spelled in Bhagavad Gita. Similarly, the judicious use of resources, the concept of dohan and not shoshan, that is use of renewable and non-renewable energy, is also being documented in Mahabharata and Srimad Bhagavatam. Next slide, please. So what does this Veda recommend? It says, in order to safeguard habitation, afforestation, and to prevent pollution, the Veda has prescribed several rules. All these rules are today there in practice. For example, it says plant more trees, ban of felling trees, protect forests, purify the environment, use of solar energy, use of electromagnetic waves, efforts to plant herbal and medicinal plants, create nakshatra vanam, create and preserve sthalavriksam. Many sthalavriksam today are all getting damaged and they are being destroyed. So maintain them and keep balance between fire and coolness, and desist from polluting land, water, and any other natural resource. So these are the ultimate recommendations from the Vedas. And next slide, sir. If we go against them, or if there is a complete deviation from them, I think I'll stop here, sir. You can close the slide. Go against them, there will be a lot of damage that happens to the humankind in terms of lifestyle, in terms of health, and also in terms of where you will be able to get more diseases which will never become curable. And to conclude, I would say human genome will become a chunk of deleterious mutations and dangerous mutations, which will now be passed on from one generation to another. And this is all. Take the classical example of diabetes, take classical examples of several forms of cancers. These forms of cancers, the mutations were not present. They're not genetically acquired mutations, but they're all acquired epigenetically, which means through the lifestyle that you live, these mutations are acquired. Several causes of multiple myeloma, several causes of gastrointestinal cancers are all epigenetic in nature. And these are now going to be passed on from one generation to another. In another lifestyle, if we are going to move away from nature blended lifestyle, the human genome will now become a chunk of dangerous mutations. And I don't know, the next generation's question of living a healthy and a holistic life will become a big dilemma or a big question. So with that, I conclude my lecture, and I hope you can ask any questions or any discussions can happen. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, you can close this. Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Madhan, sir. Shall I speak, sir? Madhan, sir?
Yes.
So what you said about the glass is true, sir, through historical sense, sir. If we observe our Indian history, sir, We imported glass in a very lesser quantities than any other things. And in up to modern times, sir, actually usage of glass was very less in constructions, whatnot, everything, sir. Because as you said, ours is a tropical country. We have plenty of heat, whatnot, everything. So there is no need of a glass, sir. This is the echo, actually, observation and conservation of our people, sir. Only with the trade and with this European trade has come, they are the people who introduced the Belgium glass, whatnot, everything actually. And so that it became actually one luxurious item for princely state rulers. And from them, actually, aristocrats, and from them, little bit neo-rich people, everybody started using glasses in their houses, sir. Today, as you said, beautiful buildings are covered with unnecessary glass shields. And inside those buildings, without AC, we can't survive, sir. If a fraction of minutes actually power is gone, and it is nothing like health, sir, of course. That's what, sir, actually, if we observe our ancient culture and life, of course, we can be very happy. That is one thing, sir. Next, actually, for a small submission, sir, we have not learned lessons
To
from.
add to that, to add to glass covering an AC, you are
Yes, sir.
doubling the emission. You're doubling the
Yes, sir.
GHG.
Yes, sir.
Radiation
Yes,
from the
sir.
glass and what comes from the air conditioners.
Yes, sir. And another thing, sir, we have not learned lessons from Indus Valley civilization, sir. Development at the cost of they wanted to surpass. I don't want to say like this. They are very advanced. At the cost of that, they have not bothered about ecosystem. And that's why, due to ecological reasons only, that great civilization went to the face of history, sir. That's why wherever international ecological conferences are actually conducted, Indus Valley is actually a case study for them. Of course, so many other departments works on that. But we being the part of that Indus Valley civilization, our ancestors, still we are not learning lessons. Development at the cost of what? That should be the major question, sir. And so many man-made errors. If one half an hour rain is coming and immediately breaking news, city is inundated and flooding, whatnot. Once upon a time, floods are there for 2-3 days, of course, and people are very happy they lived, sir, because they are in tune with nature. Today we are out of nature, sir. Thank you very much for your wonderful lecture, sir.
Not that the method of rainwater harvesting was also very scientific.
Yes, sir.
When
yes,
you
sir.
see in Coimbatore, the city where we live, we have 18 ponds. And all these 18 ponds are filled in a very, very scientific way. But today, the water channels which goes to these ponds are either dumped with sewerage, or they are
Yes,
blocked, or they are not desilted. And that is the reason why there's a sudden flooding or sudden
yes,
movement of
yes,
water
sir.
into area. Again, one more case study which I Kerala, most of the wetlands are now getting built with high-raised buildings. So water draining areas, if you start building very high-raised buildings, when it rains, where will the water go? It will come to that area, and then you say it's flooded. It
Yes,
is supposed to be a wetland. So in a
yes, sir.
wetland, if you start building huge structures, of course it will just go into water after some days.
Yes, sir. Recently, in February, only actually I have seen the beautiful city Coimbatore, sir, because due to one biodiversity conference in Kongunadu Arts and Science College. And once again, I want to visit, sir.
Coimbatore has lost its charm now. Don't tell it's a
I don't know,
beautiful
sir,
city. It
because
has
just
lost its
recently in
charm.
February only.
They have cut
February
so
only.
many trees. They have cut so many trees. The green cover
Sir.
is lost. The weather is lost.
Sir.
We never used to experience high temperatures in summer,
Sir.
but today the temperature is reaching up to 38, 39.
Oh God, sir.
When we were children, we never had such high temperatures here in this city.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any other?
Hi, sir. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good to hear from you on a lot of diverse and
No, I'm
converging
only a
on one
standby
particular.
person today. So whatever
But it
came
was
to
our
my mind, I
fortune
gave.
that your session we could have today, because we was actually waiting for a chance to hear your compilations and your, in fact, multiple aspects you have linked it in one particular note on ecodiversity and wholesome thinking. So to a few points which tangentially went into my mind when you talked about the Sarpa cow. and the sacred graves around the Indian subcontinent. One aspect is even when it is not a forest they cut, even if it is some normal place with few plants here and there, they clear to make any structure. Especially in Kerala, you have the annual festival of almost every temple has an annual festival. In Kerala, specifically, in the tantric culture, you dig up below the sanctum sanctorium to do the seven chakras pradishta with different material. It's a Shodasha pradishta. And same way, you also do a lot of preparation of the ground around. So to give observance and thanks to those or pay respect to those animals and beings, be it worms, be it the serpents and other entities below there, which had to move because this temple or even a sacred structure is coming there. Because of that, if it harmed any creature, they used to pay observance to that as called Sarpa Bali. You used to think that
Sarpabali.
it's some, yes,
It's
it
not Bali,
usually, yeah, it's not it's not an bali in the sense it's not something that they are offering a life
not
that they are
killing.
sacrificing there exactly. So they it is actually an observation, and what you find there is they do it in the night, and they offer a rice, they offer things that are edible to most of these animals or
Creatures.
beings, and they would do it near the Nagaraja or the Sarpakav
Yeah.
or that particular
Sarpakav.
area which is
Yeah.
yeah dense with fertile place
Mannarshala
for
is one
this.
classical example.
Absolutely, sir. Manarshala,
In Kerala.
in fact, traditionally there are only two places. One in South Kerala. I mean, it used to be different kingdoms. So in Travancore, it is
Mm.
Manarshala, and in North Kerala,
Mannarshala.
and there is one more temple. These
Mm.
people have the right to conduct Sarpabali everywhere around the South India
Yeah.
or any traditional temple that is formed in this particular Shodashakala. So yeah, that is one which I thought we need to remember. Another aspect is even in Tamil Nadu, many places we find that people who go to astrologers and other people saying that I'm not having a child, we are having difficulty in conceiving. One of the first things they say is early morning, go around the banyan tree or the people tree, do this particular ritual religiously. Primarily, what we find in modern lifestyle is that our the very essence of life, which is our blood, is not pure. So we have a lot of ingestations in the form of food and pollutants that keeps on adding to its impurity. So, and we don't even breathe right. We don't breathe deep. We don't breathe right. We don't sit right. So, right from our basic sitting, standing, and
Eat
living,
right also.
true. We don't even eat right. So, um, fundamental purification happens with air. So air is essentially inhalation exhalation process itself is a designed for purifying the blood on a regular basis, take out the toxins. So when these kind of rituals are centered around these sacred vrikshas or the sthala vriksha of any particular tree, it actually
Yes.
purifies the blood and makes
And that's why
that
you go around
system
them.
true. And even in Ayurveda, the first thing they do is they purge you. They either do give you an enema or they give you a purging. So these kind of rituals are
Detox.
aimed at yeah detoxing exactly. And
And again, to add to this, I should tell you in Ramayana also, Sita in principle, okay, this is all events. Ravana abducted, took her to all these places are okay. She was there in Ashokavanam for
yes,
for a considerable period of time.
yes,
So Sita apparently had some issues, menstrual issues, and her menstrual issues gets cured only because of a stay in the Ashokavana. But today, if you see Ayurvedic practices, even today, for several menstrual troubles, it is Ashoka Arishtam which is given. But most of us think this Ashoka tree is we plant in our gardens. That's not Ashoka tree. That is called Polyalthia longifolia. But Ashoka tree is Saraka Ashoka. It's a different one. It's a beautiful orange flowers with orange color flowers. So most of us today in our younger generation, they show this tree and say this is Ashoka tree. It's not Ashoka tree. It is Polyalthea longifolia. In Tamil, it's called Nettilingam. So now you understand that a very basic concept of I itself is becoming a question. We are not giving the right perspective to our generation. I'm just telling this to add to a question which is there in the chat box. I think from Dr. Chitra. She's asking, these new things are not good for us. Of course, they are not good. Knowing also we can't stop because it has become a part of our life. How can we bring change for the coming generations and for us also? One thing is being aware. Be very aware of what you are buying or what you are trying to do. See, you cannot avoid chemical. There's no possibility because we are living in a situation where you cannot avoid chemical. That's what I told you. You start your day with, I think Dr. Pratima or somebody also told, we used to use umi, for brushing the teeth. Now this Colgate says you have salt impregnated paste, Colgate black and all. See, again, it's a method of which practice that we had. That's what I said. You start your day with chemical, run your day
with another chemical.
At the end of the day, you won't fall asleep. Take a sleeping pill. So you start your day with chemical, end your day with a chemical. So this is what our lifestyle has become. So for the answer to her question of Jata Chitra is being aware of oneself, and you know what you require. And you have to be, see, just like how our Hinduism advocates, the choice is yours. See, in Karma Yoga, it says it is your choice. We don't have a component called God. Anything to you. God has given enough freedom to you. In our Sanatana Dharma, there is enough freedom to you to choose whatever you want, to choose whatever you know, or to choose whatever it has been prescribed. When you see this Andal's Tirupavai also, Andal says, Arivondrum illada Aikulathu pirandu abdin she will tell. She will say, what my ancestors were following, I am following. I am not going to do anything new. So even in Vedas, see, as I told you in the beginning, I said, all these Vedas, Upanishads, Puranas, Itikas, everything talk only one thing. There is no distinction between the creator and you. It is the same. Once you can understand that concept, then the choice is with you. You know what you have to use. There can be so many agents. There can be so many, representatives coming with this brand, that brand, this and that. But it is your choice to deny it or accept it. To find the film personalities and buy a particular product, you are getting fooled for the very first time and for the forever. So that's the problem with us. Today we are branded by so many products which are not used by them. I should say, none of these personalities who come and show this product in the hand are not using them. But we are using them. So ultimately, we will have to bear the brunt of it. And ultimately, whatever you use, proportionate multi-specialty hospitals. Again, see the amount of infertility clinics that are coming up in our country. In every district, every city, where in 10-15 years ago, there were only 1 or 2 infertility clinics. But today, every street has one infertility clinic. So you imagine where our biological meaning of life itself becomes a question. We are not leading a life. We are not leading a purposeful life, either for propagation or for attaining that Parabrahman, or for attaining that ultimate jnana, or for ultimate wisdom. We're not moving towards it because we have forgotten the difference between karma and dharma. That's the only problem with us. We see karma as separate and dharma as separate. And several points of time, people think dharma is giving something to somebody. And if I give money or something to somebody, I will attain moksha. It is not so. Karma and tightly related, that self-regulated action is karma. If you are able to regulate yourself, and that is what is prescribed in Vedas, if you know to regulate yourself, you will be leading a nature-blended life. You will be leading a karmic life, which will boil on to dharmic life. But I told you ego and eco. The other part of this, artha and kama. Most of the life that we live is centered around artha and kama, which are defined by space and time. They are completely defined by space and time. And when anything is defined by space and time, it has uncertainty to it. So uncertainty is actually responsible for anxiety. The more you become anxious, because there is uncertainty. So an anxious mind will always get into trouble. So this is the equation. And this balance goes wrong. And if you, Dr. Chitra, if you can understand this balance, I think that's the way you can surpass all. There's one more question. Can you say something about Nakshatra Vana? Okay, Nakshatra Vana, it's a quite old concept. That is, see, it's a kind of belonging. See, everybody is born with a star. Like, I am born in a particular star, you are born in a particular star. And why this concept came into existence? Say, see, today, there is a lot of psychology behind this. There is a psychological practice that happens by hugging a particular tree. I don't know how many of you have read this. And for certain ailments, you are asked to go and hug a tree for some time. So Nakshatra Vana is attributing a tree to your particular birth star. So you get emotionally and you get psychologically attracted towards that particular tree. And this is again a method of conserving that tree. So you feel that that tree is sacred to me, that tree is in my own birth star, so I won't damage the tree. I will propagate that tree. Maybe I will donate 10 trees to somebody to plant. So this is again a concept of conservation which was there, Nakshatra Vana. Just like Sthala Vriksham, Nakshatra Vana was also a concept which was more psychologically and emotionally intertwined into the minds of people. I think that's the answer which you want.
Sir?
Vasanti has been raising her hand for quite some time.
I can't see.
No, she is actually speaking. Her mic is mute. Vasanti madam, your mic is mute.
Yeah, yes, yeah. Thank you very much.
I cannot see.
Sir, Madhan sir, very informative. I think few days I could not join because of some other work. Sorry to say that. I'm Dr. Vasanti, Archaeology Department, State Department of Archaeology. I retired from the service. I know Chandramohan is there. He's my friend. He's our friend. Namaste. Sir, just I'm not giving, sir, it's a very informative. Is it possible for you to share these things as a book form? Because some places we missed some lectures. So is it possible for you to give?
We will do that.
Thank you, sir.
We will do that.
Yeah, and I want to give just a few more adding only, because in Tamil inscriptions, we got lot of references about Ilippai tree, because when we lit the lamp in the temples for lighting the lamp, they use only the Ilippai tree, Ilippai Ennai, it is called as Ilippai Ennai, that is there. And also Kamagu, Tennai, everything is mentioned in the inscriptions also. So, and they used to have a canal to for channelizing the water to these places, and all the temples were attached with the Kamugu plantations, and Kamugu means park, Kamugu plantations, park, like that. So our ancestors, they are very intelligent. They attach how to conserve these plants and trees. They attach these to the temples. Maybe I think so. But your wonderful lecture, sir. Thank you very much. This is only a small information. Thank you very much, sir. I ask you.
Thank you, madam.
Yeah, book form.
We will do that. We will do that. We will share all the presentations with you.
Thank you, sir. Kind of you, sir. Good day, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, madam. The only take-home message is that can we incorporate all these things into the curriculum and see our students know all this. That's the purpose of this, the whole workshop.
Sure.
So,
Yes, sir. It's true.
no questions. I think Suresh sir, can we close?
Sir, myself,
Sir.
sir. Just 2 minutes, sir.
Yeah.
Chandramohan, sir.
Yes,
Shall
yes,
I,
please.
sir?
Yes,
Sir,
yes.
shall I say this is Monday, na, sir? This day is Monday, na, sir?
Yeah.
Rigveda's 9th mandala. Rigveda's 9th mandala is entirely dedicated to Soma Krutu or Soma Yajna. Soma Yajna means picking medicinal herbs, out of which actually Aryans used to prepare their sacred drink Soma, and that's why later Soma became a synonym for god moon. So on the basis of him, this became Somavara, Monday, of course. As you are saying, the very, I got a striking, there's a beauty, sir. Monday, and later very interesting after the development of Jyotish, astrology, whosoever birth chart is having a wonderful highlighted moon, and automatically he has the advantage of getting a physician, actually not a surgeon, and Sun and Mars combination is there, he will become a surgeon, like that our ancient tradition, sir. And another last submission, sir. This is a 10th mandala of Rigveda. In 10th mandala of Rigveda, we have Purusha Suktam, sir. In that Purusha Suktam, and in that entire Sukta mantras, you see Bhu Sukta, Daya Sukta, Nila Sukta, Nakshatra Sukta, Kshama Sukta, Bhu Sukta, like that. All Sukta mantras are prayers by saying our gratitudes to the nature, that with the help of them we are able to live. This is our Indian way of life, always keeping gratitude to the nature, without which we can't live, sir. That's what in other senses you have exposed. Thank you for a wonderful session, and thank you very much, sir, providing this good opportunity. Thank you very much. And today we can see Vasanthi madam also, very great archaeologist Vasanthi madam, and always thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Just adding to that is Athirudram, which you said, the Athirudram ritual, another name for Athirudram? Adiratram.
Yeah, Adiratram.
Yeah, so I think the point covered by Chandramohan sir is also resonating
No,
there.
sir,
In fact,
Rudram is also the
Rudram and
same,
Chamak,
sir.
exactly. Namakam,
Sir,
Chamakam. Chamakam is completely
Same thing. It's the
Thanksgiving.
same thing. It's a 12-day long ritual which offers oblation to the god Agni.
Yes, sir.
Goes in
And the most
multiples of
important
11.
aspect is that medicinal herb that they use called Somalata.
Yes,
the
sir.
juice
Yes,
from
sir.
that medicinal plant.
Yes, sir.
Is,
Yes.
Can you
The
explain on
saddest
that
part
particular
is, the saddest part is, this thing has been happening for more than 3,000 years, but it has not been documented by
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
people like us. It is documented by a US-based Indologist. That's the saddest.
Another 1 minute submission, sir. Totally, if we
Sir,
go
yes.
through Rudra Namakam Chamakam, sir, Chencheme, Vayascheme, Kamascheme, Soma Rasascheme, everything is nothing but we are praising God, Ishvara. You are living in all
In
natural
multiple
elements,
times.
and we are blessed by you to have all this, sir. So actually, our ancestors has never separated from the nature, sir. Always saying gratitude and keeping the nature and transmitting those things to the next generations, sir. Today, there is a lot of, we are actually cut off from our nature, and the entire our natures are changed due to this colonization, whatnot, I think. That's why, sir, actually totally Indian way of life has either now become semi, only some percentage of the people still are continuing this. Rest of the people, actually, we can't say anything. That's what, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you for sparing your valuable time. Gokul, sir, also.
Thank you.
Thank you,
so
sir.
much.
Thank you.
So tomorrow we'll be having the last day of our workshop. From Ashoka University, no, Chanakya University. She is the Registrar of Evaluation and also a Professor of Management. And she is going to speak something about the managerial skills that we have seen in the Vedic times. So with that, we'll be concluding our 14-day workshop. And there'll be an assessment questionnaire again tomorrow. Maybe we'll give you a day's time. And once you submit the assessment questionnaire, we'll be releasing your certificates.
So something emotional, sir, because tomorrow this is just tomorrow being the last day, like that. Every day accustomed for 5:30 to 7 is like satsangas or pravachanas. Of course, we are attending, and now maybe it's a little bit emotional, sir. That means tomorrow being the last day. Of course,
We would
will
like to do such. We would like to do such programs in the offline mode in the future also.
Yes, sir.
Maybe
Yes,
in
sir.
the
Yes.
future we will plan for an offline workshop.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank
very
you,
much.
sir.
Thank you for
Thank you,
curating
sir.
this.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for
Thank you.
taking this impromptu session also. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.